The silent era of films is not generally known for its horror movies. The genre was basically created in 1920 by the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari and perfected in 1922 by Nosferatu, A Symphony of Horror. I've reviewed both of these movies if you want to check those out. Today, I'll be finishing the silent horror movies with 1925's The Phantom of the Opera. The background for this movie begins in 1922, when the president of Universal Pictures, Carl Laemmle, took a vacation to Paris and met Gaston Leroux, an author that listened to Laemmle talk about how he admired the Paris Opera House and gave him a copy of his 1910 book, The Phantom of the Opera. Laemmle read the book in one night and immediately bought the film rights, with his friend Lon Chaney set to play the Phantom. Unfortunately, the production was not smooth. There were many reshoots and conflicts with director Rupert Julian that plagued the filming for months. However, the film was made and premiered in New York to decent reviews. Now let's get into the plot. The film opens with two wealthy gentlemen finishing a deal to buy the Paris Opera House. The two seem pleased and excited about the purchase until the previous owners warn of a ghost that appears in box number 5. The new owners laugh it off as a child's tale, but go to inspect the box. As it turns out, there is a ghost that disappears before they re-enter. We cut to the ballerinas backstage that believe they saw the ghost, famously known as the Phantom of the Opera. The ballerinas and the poor stagehand they drag around talk to another stagehand named Joseph Bouquet, who has seen the Phantom's face and describes it as the most horrifying and disturbing image. Later, the owners are greeted by the mother of the lead performer, Mademoiselle Carlotta, who received a letter from the Phantom demanding that she not perform and instead be replaced by Christine Day. Evidently, Carlotta is sick and can't perform, so Christine understudies her. Later, Carlotta receives another letter from the Phantom telling her again not to perform. Carlotta refuses, and the owners also get a letter from the Phantom threatening severe consequences if Christine doesn't perform. During this, Christine is visited by Viscount Raoul de Chagny, and he asks her to give up the opera to marry him. She refuses to leave her career, and as Raoul leaves, Christine is visited by the Phantom. The Phantom admires Christine and wants to make her the most beloved opera singer in Paris, and tells her to wait for his call when they can finally see each other. During the next performance, as Carlotta is singing, the lights go crazy, and the Phantom says Carlotta is singing to bring down the chandelier. Sure enough, the chandelier falls on the audience. After the chaos, Christine is visited again by the Phantom, and he opens her mirror, revealing a secret passage. Upon entering, Christine is met by a terrifying man in a mask. He leads her down to his underground lair and reveals that he is the Phantom, causing Christine to pass out. Upon awakening, Christine reads a letter from the Phantom asking not to remove his mask. Curiosity gets to her though, and she unmasks him. Naturally pissed about being unmasked, the Phantom tells her that she will perform in the opera, and she can never see Raoul again. When she does go back to the Paris Opera House, she writes to Raoul to rendezvous during the masked ball. During the ball, the Phantom disguises himself as the Red Death. He then sees Christine with Raoul, and they escape to the roof to talk while the Phantom watches above them. Christine asks Raoul to take her to England immediately following the performance. Upon leaving, the mysterious man in a fez cautions them to take a different exit, knowing that the Phantom is downstairs. Later before the performance, Christine tells Raoul that the Phantom knows of their plan. Raoul tells Christine to perform anyway, and they'll still escape. Meanwhile, the stagehand from earlier discovers that Joseph Bouquet has been murdered, and his brother knows it was the Phantom. During the performance, the Phantom kidnaps Christine, and Raoul meets up with the Fez man, who reveals that he is an officer of the Secret Service and has been on the case of the Phantom for months. The two make their way into the Phantom's lair, where he has Christine. The Phantom begins to yell at Christine for trying to cheat him, and reveals that he captured Raoul and Landau. During this, Bouquet's brother gathers a mob and goes to kill the Phantom. The Phantom releases the water from the canal into the prison Raoul and Landau are in, and releases them only when Christine begs for their lives. However, this allows the mob to cross the canal and reach the Phantom's lair, only discover that he left with Christine. While they're escaping, Christine jumps out of the carriage, causing it to tip over. Raoul gets to Christine as the mob chases down the Phantom, eventually cornering him on a dock. He scares them at first, but shows that he's just playing to their fear for laughs. The mob grabs him, beats him to death, and throws his body into the river. The end. So what do I think of the film? To be honest, it's better than Nosferatu. This plot is amazing. It's like if you combined Dracula and Frankenstein. One complaint I had with the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari was that there was no reputation for Caligari's crimes. What that means is there's no real presence to the character. The Phantom has presence. We see his shadow for the first half hour, the ballerinas are terrified hearing about him from Bouquet, and there's someone who's been tracking him for a while. There's a presence to him. You don't know when he'll come around, but when he does, everyone knows. This build-up is also given a good payoff with the great performance of Lon Chaney. To compare to a more recent iteration of the Phantom of the Opera, in 2004 Gerard Butler played the Phantom, and just by looking at him he's not great. The mask really only covers the side of his face, lending him to look mysterious and attractive. The mask in the original movie was creepy. It's unsettling. You can't really see his eyes, and it doesn't really have a chin. Even Christine thinks the mask is scary. In the newer movie, when the mask is taken off, Butler is barely disfigured. It just looks like he lost a fight. Heck, Zuko looks worse than this guy, and he doesn't even wear a mask. Unless he's in disguise, but that's another story. Back to the first movie, when that mask comes off, it's horrifying. Look at that face. Now that's a disfigurement. Lon Chaney was allowed to do his own makeup after his success in The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and boy is it scary. On top of that, Chaney is one of those actors that can truly emote through layers of makeup or special effects. Actors like Andy Serkis or Jim Carrey that give so much through everything on their face. Chaney can even emote through a skull mask. It's amazing. Chaney is definitely the highlight of the film. Now he's not the only good thing about the film. In terms of the cast, Raoul and Christine are excellent. They might not be over the top or strange, but they put in solid performances. The fear Christine has when around the Phantom, or Raoul's stern confidence in saving her, makes this film stand out among other silent films. Though neither of them can reach the level Chaney is on. The rest of the cast is great too. I remember everyone. Bouquet, the stagehand, Ledoux, the ballerinas, Count Philippe, the owners, Carlotta, her mother, the mob. Everyone leaves a mark on a film with 3 amazing leads. The sets are also grand. Every set has its own memorable feel, my favorite being the statue on the roof. Another thing you might have noticed is the scene of the masked ball. It's in color. Yeah, I'm not sure why, but this particular scene was made in color. It's interesting. It does highlight the strangeness of the ball and the contrast of the Phantom's costume, but yeah, kind of odd. The pacing of the film is also perfect. Being an hour and a half long, the film hits every point it needs to, and each scene lasts as long as it needs to be. There are no slow moments like in Nosferatu, which, though being a great film, is a bit of a slow burn. Phantom is neither too short nor too long, it's just right. With this all being said, is there anything I didn't like about the film? Nope. I'm serious. I am sitting, writing this at my college, thinking of something I don't like about the Phantom of the Opera, and I can't think of anything. For me, this is the perfect silent film. Better than Nosferatu, and certainly better than Caligari. If you're thinking about getting into classic horror movies, then please make sure you watch The Phantom of the Opera. And check out Caligari and Nosferatu, because they're also good movies, but mostly Phantom. Well, that ends reviews for silent horror movies. If you want to watch The Phantom of the Opera, there's an end card on screen and a link in the description. I'm Alex from 7th Hour Films. Happy Halloween.